Welcome to the Coast to Coast podcast brought to you by thelines.com. I'm Nate Weitzer coming to you from the East Coast today. We have a bit of a special look here at after the Super Bowl. We are going head to head here, me and Josh, picking one game each and then 4 player props each. So check out both of those player prop videos. See who does better here on Monday as we kick into overdrive on the NBA season. Thelines.com will have plenty of content up about NBA futures, NBA lines, everything you need. Those player props will be coming up with little write-ups soon as well. So more information here as we transition past NFL season. 11-game slate here on Monday. Let me read you the lines real quick. We got Jazz -1 at Pacers, Hawks -4 at the Hornets. The Rockets are +15 at the Sixers. Spurs are +15 at the Cavs. Nuggets in a pick 'em basically at Miami. A ton of guys questionable for Miami there. I think Josh is going to be looking at this one. Nets +2 at Knicks. His Knickerbockers looking to snap a 9-game skid against the Nets. The Magic are +5 at Bulls. Pelicans +3 at Thunder. Wolves +8 at the Kyrie Luka Mavs. The Wizards +4 at the Warriors. Kind of like Golden State there if it stays small. And then the game I'm looking at, Lakers are +2 at Portland. Total of 238. And I'll start with the mea culpa for trying to take the Blazers on Friday against OKC, thinking that Dame would have a huge game to respond to their kind of puzzling trade deadline moves. And he did. He continued to drop at least 36 once again. But SGA, who we also called out saying, parlay those two guys' scoring props, had 44 on ridiculous efficiency, 13 for 16 field goal shooting, 19 free throws. And so that's what we're going to be looking at here going forward is Portland, remove the D because that's what they did at the trade deadline. No Josh Hart now, no Gary Payton. Nurkic and Winslow are both out. And now Jeremy Grant is in concussion protocol. And if he misses tonight, I don't really care if LeBron James plays or not. I think the Lakers can still win here. I mean, they had a pretty solid win here at Golden State with the reinforcements coming in at the deadline. Jared Vanderbilt, very good off the bench. D'Angelo Russell, solid. And Anthony Davis closing it out with defense. The rebounding margins were pretty impressive there against Golden State. And their 3-point defense as well, which has been very good lately. They've been a much better defensive team, as you'd expect, since Anthony Davis came back. They're 4-2 to the under in games that have not gone to overtime with AD since he returned in January. The big thing, though, is LeBron going to play, if you're talking about a total here. Total's been bet up from 235 to 238. I have a hard time taking the under in any Portland game because of what I said, but I think if LeBron's out, you should feel pretty good about an under. I mean, the Lakers just don't score without him. 13 games this season, 112 a game. That is despite playing at a 101 pace, and they've gone under in 5 straight without LeBron now, scoring just 108, shooting just 45% from the floor. So even no matter how bad Portland's defense is, I don't necessarily trust the Lakers to do what they did in two wins over Portland this season with LeBron, which is score about 124. But I think LeBron, after missing 2 with general soreness, ankle issue, etc., after setting the record, I think he should be back in there tonight. And like I said, they just have superior depth right now compared to Portland, which is just Dame and nobody else at this point. I mean, at least nobody else on the defensive end. Trying to acclimate Cam Reddish, but I don't really understand what he does for them as a two-way player next to Simons and Dame. Their defensive rating has been the worst in the league for 15 games now, and recently it's gotten much worse. It's 127 in their last 8. They're playing at a slower pace, but they're number 1 in true shooting, number 1 in offensive rating, which is why, again, we worry about an over no matter what here when they play, but look, the Lakers, like I said, rebounding margin against the Warriors, good 3-point defense, 50 paint points with AD out there. Those are the types of things that Portland's going to be pretty powerless to stop. They're 28th in rebounding rate in this span. Grant, even if he's in there, not the greatest rebounder. They're looking at Drew Eubanks and Nasir Little, I think, in the front court, who are both solid and also did a solid job on the board against the Warriors. But Anthony Davis, Troy Brown, Wenyen Gabriel, and now Vanderbilt off the bench. The Lakers just have a lot of bulk. even if they don't shoot well from three, I think they could win a low scoring game here, push their advantage at the free throw line, etc. And they've won two against the Blazers this season already. Talked about in that Thunder video that the Blazers are the number one in clutch time, though, in this span, mostly due to Dame. They're now 4-2 in their last 6. They did not close out the Thunder in clutch time. The Lakers are up there, though, in terms of net rating, a plus 31 net rating their last 6 in clutch time, including 81 defensive rating. And to me, that's all AD. We saw him close the game against the Warriors with a couple blocks, change shots. So, I mean, if you're just depending on unassisted threes, which the Blazers are, on Dame just going nuts every time, I don't think it's as sustainable as, I mean, certainly if you have a LeBron and AD-led team, a really, now suddenly a deep Lakers team. We're used to thinking is so razor thin, so you can't even look at their numbers for the season and say, like, this is what they are on the road versus home. I mean, they've actually been pretty good on the road lately, 8-4 straight up, and 2 of those 4 losses are the questionable loss of Boston with the missed call, and then they punted the next one at Brooklyn, sitting their guys. So it's go time for the Lakers for sure. And this is a key game in terms of leapfrogging Portland to get into that play-in position at least. I think they get the win tonight, and if you bet it +2 early in the day, and then LeBron is in, you're going to feel really good about those odds there. So
I'm going to jump right into my game, Knicks and Nets in Madison Square Garden tonight. The Knicks are currently roughly 2.5 favorites, depending where you find it, maybe 3 points. And that's exactly where it opened. This game total is currently at 220.5, opened at 223.5. So people obviously betting this one down a little bit. Storylines in this game, just to look at, I mean, Seth Curry's out, Mitch Robinson's still out for each of those teams respectively. But more importantly, this is a very new look Brooklyn team. As we know, they are now 1-1 since Dinwiddie came to the team. Kyrie traded, and then KD left as well, going to the Suns. So that brought in a few different guys, obviously, for this Nets team, including Mikal Bridges, who had a nice game in their loss to Philly. They have beaten the Bulls by 11 and then lost to Philly by 3, even though they were winning most of that game, including by double digits at one point in the third quarter. Philly came back in the third quarter at the end there, then was able to take the game over in the fourth. But if you look at the difference in this team now, this is now a 3-point shooting team. This is a 3-and-D team with a ton of wings on it and a ton of tall wings on it. Probably a much better rebounding team for the rest of the year as well. Not necessarily because they got a center of any kind, but Cam Johnson, Mikal Bridges, 2 guys that are really big and really solid rebounders as well. They are now in the last 2 games, obviously small sample size, but you just look at the difference in the style of play. They're scoring the 5th highest percentage of their points off of 3, as opposed to 17th before the trades. That's 15 threes a game that they've in the last 2 on 36%. 3rd fewest points off of 2-pointers as opposed to 13th. No more mid-range, as we know, without Kyrie and KD. They were 2nd in percentage points off mid-range. They're now 17th. And they are better in certain terms of the hustle stats, as you would expect as well. 9th and second chance points as opposed to second to last previously. They still can't score in the paint, where the Knicks are, keeping people from being able to score as well, but there's the 3rd fewest points in the paint as opposed to 8th fewest previously. You just still can't really do it. Not anybody down there that you worry about. They're playing at about a 96.5 pace, a little bit slower actually. 99.5 was what they were playing at. But they're better on defense as well. So in terms of what that matchup does for them against the Knicks, I like the Knicks to be able to kind of stop what they do now a lot better. You look at the Knicks defense in the last 4 that they've played at home. They're top 7 in everything from opponents' points off of turnovers, opponents' second chance points, opponents' fast break points. They're 3rd in opponents' points in the paint, which they're always good at. And they've been much better defending the 3, which is something that you can, that's a tool that teams have used to beat the Knicks. It's a pretty stark difference between when they stop the 3-pointer and when they don't. In their losses this season, they're allowing 15 made threes, which is right at Brooklyn's at in those last couple games, like I said. And then in their wins, only 10 threes for their opponent allowed. Obviously, that 15-point difference, a huge difference for them. At home, they are better, where they're playing this game. They're allowing 12 there, as opposed to about 13.5, 14 made threes on the road, where they're really, really bad. So, like I said, they've gotten better in the areas where I think the Nets are going to try to win this game. obviously in terms of limiting second chance points, limiting points and getting points off of turnovers, I should say, where the Knicks are fifth in limiting opponents' points off of turnovers because they're not really turning the ball very much at all, which is why they've been successful in their last couple weeks playing. Fifth in limiting fifth fast break points, easy for me to say, overall as well. So, getting back on defense, not turning the ball over, and limiting the ways that I think that this Brooklyn Nets team is obviously going to try to score. It's going to be a lot of dribble, drive, and kick for three, and then a lot of try to get the ball in transition and play a little bit more helter-skelter. And that just happens to be where the Knicks, are very solid right now, winning 3 of their last 4 at home, keeping their offensive rating high as well, scoring 117 a game. Their games at home right now actually averaging about 230 points in their last 4 at home with only a 96 pace. So they're playing really efficiently with that 118 offensive rating. And it should be said, I probably should have led with it, but the Nets have won the last 9 versus the Knicks wherever they're playing. And I think it's an opportunity where this is going to be a much different game. So the -2 spread here for the Knicks, 2.5, whatever, I'm fine with that. And that's super, definitely 100% my preferred bet. The 220.5, I can see it going either way. It's a little too 50-50 for me. I think the pace that these two teams are playing at around 96 does tell you that there's probably going to be, not as many possessions. There's not going to be as many points in this one. So I can understand it getting bet down. I think if it gets anywhere below this and closer to 218, I'm kind of out either way, to be honest. I still kind of prefer the under, even though, the Nets are playing, a little bit better or a little more fluid offense. Say what you want. It's a little bit more fun to watch, even though KD and Kyrie cooking is always fun to watch. This is a little bit more fluid offense and open style basketball that I think is often more fun to watch with more points coming in. But I think the Knicks are going to be able to handle all of that. Like I said, I think this matchup is exactly what they'd prefer it to be than what the teams were before this trade. So this is a good one for guys like Julius Randle. I think. Obviously Jalen Brunson can probably cook in this one as well. Although I think he might have a little bit more trouble with those wing defenders and the length that Brooklyn now possesses on defense as a much better team. 221 was that total versus Chicago, and then just the 210 or so. Not even. I'm sorry, 199 versus the 76ers, as they couldn't even get to 100 points themselves. So yeah, I think even in the fourth quarter, you like the Knicks' ability to control this thing the way that the 76ers came back and were able to handle the fourth quarter a little bit more of a stronger identity at this point, and the Knicks know what they are with Jalen Brunson and Julius Randle in the fourth quarter. I don't know that the Nets have that guy at this point that you can feel comfortable about betting on them to be able to pull this one out in the fourth if it is even close at that point. So
I'm your host, Nate Weitzer, here on the East Coast. We're going solo today, both me and Josh Lander, bringing you a little battle style on player props. Each of us will take 4 and give our best picks here for a full Monday slate with 11 games. As we move past the Super Bowl, might get into some more interesting formatting here, and this is something we're trying in terms of us going head-to-head, see who can come up with the better prop picks and give you more options, really, when we have a full slate like this. So I'll get right into it, but make sure you like and subscribe to the page. Check out thelines.com. I will be writing up some of these player props going forward now that we're past NFL season, and we'll have a lot more content for you in terms of NBA power rankings, futures updates, etc. after a wild trade deadline, and soon to be the last third of the season after the All-Star break. And speaking of the deadline, we're now looking at the Kyrie Luka Mavs. In 2 games, they've scored 125, and their defense has been just as bad with a 125 defensive rating. So want to look at Wolves Mavs and Ant Edwards at 27.5 points. Too rich for my blood. I'm instead going to go with Rudy Gobert, 13.5 points, but really you want the points and rebounds with Gobert. He's a threat to get 15 boards potentially every time he goes out there. In fact, that's what he's averaging against Dallas. Double-double in 7 straight regular season games, 16.5 points, 15 rebounds. And now he's playing with Mike Conley instead of D'Angelo Russell. It appears to be part of the reason he was frustrated with D'Lo, or whatever reason the Wolves suddenly moved on from him. But he didn't have the same rapport with him as he did with Conley in Utah last year. His last 17 with Conley and the Jazz averaged 15.5 points and 15 rebounds. And they were blown out in their debut together at Memphis, but I think this one has a chance to be a lot more exciting. I don't think the Mavs are running away from anybody because they can't defend, Dwight Powell and Christian Wood are going to be trying to hold it down low. I mean, Gobert went for 18 and 15 against that duo in December. Dallas has given up the fourth most rebounds to centers over their last 15 games. So it's another matchup where Rudy should gobble up misses. Even if, Dallas is heightened offensive efficiency here, there's still going to be plenty of misses for a team that shoots that many threes. So the first game of the night, Jazz Pacers. Like Colin Sexton here at 17.5 points or 4.5 assists is minus 108 at FanDuel. I think he probably goes over both of those. That's what he's averaging in the last 3 years since the Jazz shook things up at the trade deadline, moving Mike Conley, getting Russell Westbrook, who is still on ice and is probably not going to play for them at any point. I mean, he's Sexton averaging 20 points, 4 rebounds, 5.3 assists, playing 33 minutes per game, and shooting 56% from the floor, 42% from three on a 21% usage rate. So really trying to assert himself as a valuable rotation piece going forward, because that Jazz backcourt's getting crowded, or has been crowded all year. Now it's getting a little more open. It's an opportunity. He was looking like a bright future guy in Cleveland, and then suddenly he was on ice early, but he was already playing his way into the rotation by averaging double digits posting double digits in 14 straight games, averaging 15 points in just 25 minutes per game. So now his minutes are up 8 minutes per game. He's facing a Pacers team that plays with tremendous pace, that allows the third most points per game and fifth most assists to shooting guards in the last 30 games here. His last 4 against the Pacers with Cleveland averaged 26 and 7 dimes in 36 minutes per game. So he's definitely capable of exploiting this matchup. The Pacers defensive guards are mostly rookies at this point, or Halliburton, who's concentrating on offense and is questionable tonight anyway. So looking for points in this one, and I think Sexton's a little undervalued. The under I'm taking, Nikola Vucevic under 18.5 points, yet at the same time I'm taking over 11.5 rebounds. We got that right in terms of the mismatch in his last game against Brooklyn on Friday, because he had about 17 boards, 14 points to go just under the combined points rebounds, but he's a rebounding monster right now, and Orlando is such a poor shooting team that I do think he gets at least 12 boards, but I don't think his usage is going to be high enough for him to score 19. I know he did last time out against Orlando. He had 23. Both DeRozan and Levine had 32 against that team. I expect more of a slow, low-scoring game here in this one. He also had 29 points in his revenge debut against Orlando after getting moved, but in 5 other meetings with the Bulls against his former team, 15 points per game, shooting under 38% from the floor. Orlando is a team that's tough on centers, so number 7 in point paints allowed, second chance points, and top 5 in terms of allowing percentage of their points off threes. So I would expect the Bulls to be spreading it out a little bit more. Vooch can knock down outside shots, but his usage rate is just at 17% over his last 2. And we talked about why his numbers spiked into 3 prior to that Brooklyn game, and I just don't think it's going to continue. I don't think he's going to see a huge usage rate here tonight against Orlando. Finally, our guy, Kenyon Martin Jr., KJ, who cruised past his prop the last time we took him. It's still 13.5 points. The odds are a little worse here. So if you want to add 6 rebounds, maybe that gets you better odds. But in his last 9 now, 15 points per game, nearly 8 rebounds per game. Last 3, he's up to 17 minutes per game, playing 17 points and playing 35 minutes, shooting 70% from the floor. The Rockets are playing much more of a conservative, interior-oriented style, especially without Kevin Porter Jr. on the shelf still. They do have Jalen Green back, but he's facilitating. He's getting the ball down low to these forwards, Tari Eason, Martin, and Jabari Smith, and Sengun also setting those guys up. So there's been a lot of opportunities. Now Eric Gordon's gone, so that's another perimeter player gone. And Philly, we just don't see them take teams seriously when they're at home, like when they're 15-point favorites like this. They lost to the Rockets a couple months ago in a similar spot. They give up the most points per game to power forwards in the last 30 there. And they're just not a great rebounding team still. 28th in total rebounds and 27th in opponents' defensive rebound percentage. So I think Martin will get his here. I kind of think the Rockets can cover 15 points here in Philly, but I'm not confident enough to bet that necessarily. Just think that the young guy continues to put up points when given the minutes, like 36 a game. So
I'm going to jump into my first player prop here, going under on Mr. Jordan Poole. 32.5 points and assists in this one. He's been struggling a little bit as of late, I will say. His last 5 at home, especially, just 16 points a game and 5 assists in that time frame. 30 minutes a game for the youngster still. 3 of those games without Steph too, so it's not like Steph's really gobbling up any of his usage there. His last 4 versus the Wizards, who they're taking on tonight, surprisingly good at D for the Wiz as of late. 25 a game, but just 2 assists in that time frame, actually getting more steals than assists versus the Wizards in his last 4 versus them. The Wiz, the last 5 on the road, like I said, they're 4-1 actually straight up, and really, really good defense. Top 5 in both opponent field goal and 3-point percentage, top 5 in limiting assists per game as well, and on the season overall, top 5 in limiting point guards assists per game, and then allowing about 24 total points per game to hit the opposing point guards. So it's just not a good spot, I don't think, for Jay Poole. A little bit worse on offense for the kid, like I said, overall, and definitely at home. So I think it's a good spot to take under 33 points and assists for him. Moving on to an over here, Joker, and it's it seems like a bit of a scary rebound prop for him against the Miami Heat team, who's incredible at rebounding, as we know. 11.5 boards for him, -115 on DraftKings. I'm taking over on that. In his last 4 versus Miami, he has averaged 13 a game. He's only missed getting 12 once, and that was in the game at home. This one's in Miami, and while Miami is number 1 on the season in terms of limiting opponents' rebounds per game at home, they have dropped to 8th in their last 5, and actually 8th overall on the season as well. So in Joker's last 6, 15 boards a game. He's hit this prop each time. He's played a few poor rebounding teams, including the Hornets, but also played plenty of decent rebounding teams in that time. And Denver's still playing at about the 4th fastest pace on the road and really everywhere on the season. The Heat have been playing a little bit faster at home than they do on the season, playing at about a 97.5 pace as opposed to 96. I think there's going to be some opportunities for some more boards, and Aaron Gordon may not play in this one. Jamal Murray might not play in this one. I think there's just opportunities for more rebounds, although it's not a great spot for the Nuggets. Overall, I think Joker's going to continue to be out there, and I'm a little bit wary of the points, but the rebounds at needing to get 12, I think he's going to continue to get those. So this one is my favorite bet. I probably should have started off with Jared Allen here, and they're taking on the Spurs. And Jared Allen's been on a tear anyway. The Spurs are awful. They don't have Jakob Poeltl anymore. Not that he was great this season, but 26.5 points and rebounds for Jared Allen. Going over on that for -120 on DK. Not the greatest juice, but you can actually go 27.5 on FanDuel if you want to get it a little bit better. I believe it actually goes all the way up to about 110. I would take that as well, the -111 or so for Jared Allen on FanDuel at 27.5 points and rebounds. No more Poeltl means they're allowing 52.5 rebounds per game. That's dead last by a lot for the Spurs there in those last 4 games without Poeltl. Jared Allen in his last 4 is at 21.5 points per game, got 20 points each and every time out, which is why I was happy to add the points in there for the points and rebounds, even though this could be a blowout. But 21.5 points and then 11.5 boards in 33 minutes over his last 4. So, I mean, like I said, the only issue would be if you consider the blowout factor. But, I mean, in the last 3 versus the Spurs, the Cavs, it's been a little bit close. 2 5-point games, a 1-point game in there that they needed last time out. So it's been a little bit close, still plenty of possessions in those games, and like I said, San Antonio playing at 105 pace on the road right now, allowing the most points per game and the 4th most rebounds per game to centers, 35 a game to opposing centers. So I just think there's just so many opportunities for the Cavs to get down low and Jared Allen to just crush this thing. So that's got to be my favorite bet of the night. My scariest bet on the night, and one that I just wanted to take to maybe see if I can be a little bit counter to what the thought process would be with Anthony Davis. I'm going under on his points, rebounds, and assists, 42.5 there on DraftKings. That's -110. LeBron's questionable, but he could play, first of all. So if he does play, everything drops for AD, including going from 15 boards a game without LeBron to 11 with him. So that would be a huge obviously helpful factor if LeBron plays and you get this at 42.5 points, rebounds, and assists for AD. I think you feel good about that. In his last 4 versus Portland, AD, 24 a game, 11 boards, and 3 assists. So still, 4 shy of that total that he would need. His last 4 on the road road specifically against Portland, 18 points a game, 6 boards, and 4 assists. That's all in 26 minutes. There was some funkiness in there. He definitely left one of those early after about 16 minutes because of an injury that I think he then actually kept him out for a little bit. But it's still not very good numbers against this team. I know Nurk's not in there, and it's Drew Eubanks' show, but the young dude's been playing actually pretty well, and it's not like Nurk really was providing much on the defensive end. So in his last 3 games overall, 16 points and 13 boards in 33 minutes. That doesn't even include 4 games ago where it just looked like he wasn't even trying, didn't really care in that Thunder game. So Portland, 3rd best in limiting opponents' rebounds on the season. Actually a really, really good rebounding team. Jeremy Grant's questionable. That would be a huge blow, but I do think he's probably going to be available as well, and hoping that he does, that would be helpful as well for us. And Portland, over their last 7, they've been bad, let's say this, on the season in terms of allowing centers to score and to get their numbers. But in the last 7 that they've played, top 12 in limiting centers in points and rebounds. So definitely gotten a lot better there. Might be because of the lack of Nurk, where he's just sort of not, pretty cement-footed, let's just say, and fouls a lot. So guys are able to get to the line and get theirs against him. Without him in there, probably a little bit better opportunity to slow down AD, who honestly just doesn't look engaged. And that's a big reason for why I kind of wanted to look at his under as soon as I saw how high all his props were, regardless if LeBron plays, which I don't think the books right now expect him to, but you got to stay on those injury reports in the NBA as they fluctuate wildly. So that is all the time we have for you in this one. Make sure to like and subscribe to that page. Check out Nate's picks as well today. And until we see you next, happy betting.